quiet hiring, this is not new, but it's supposed to increase this year. So what is quiet hiring? Quiet hiring is when there are vacant positions at a company, and instead of that company actually hiring people to fill those positions, usually these are positions where people have quit, they will then take those positions and give that work to employees that are still left at the company and not give them a raise, not increase their salary, thus increasing their workload, giving them a title that they probably didn't even apply for, and not giving them the monetary benefits of it. This isn't new. It's been happening for a while, and it happened to me. Let's go ahead and get into this article here. Quiet hiring will dominate the US in 2023. Now, this is coming from an HR expert, and you need to prepare for it. So this is your warning, guys. Now hiring, but not really. A new year is here, and with it, a new workplace phenomenon that bosses and employees should prepare for. I want to correct them here. Like I said, this is not new. Quiet hiring. Quiet hiring is when an organization acquires new skills without actually hiring new full-time employees. Let's get into it. Sometimes it means hiring short-term contractors. Other times it means encouraging current employees to temporarily move into new roles within the organization. The reality for the next year is, whether or not we go into a recession, everyone is a little nervous. In a lot of cases, organizations are not necessarily doing a hiring freeze or layoffs, but may be slowing down a little bit on their hiring. But every employer still has financial goals to meet, often ambitious ones. The talent shortage that we talked about throughout 2022 hasn't gone away. So you're in a situation where it's harder to get headcount and you have a desperate need for talent. I want to debunk that for just a second. Let's debunk that narrative. Here's part of the problem in reference to hiring people. Somewhere along the way, employers decided to use a service called ATS, Application Tracking Service. What does this service do? It scans resumes to see if resumes have certain keywords that fit job descriptions. And if they do, those resumes are sent to the hiring manager or HR. They will sort through those resumes and pick a couple people to interview. Now, here's the problem. Oftentimes, because they use that service, ATS, good talent is overlooked. People who actually would be great for those positions aren't interviewed or don't even get the opportunity to have their resume seen because they did not adapt their resume to the job description. This is a little trick for some of you who may not be aware. This is what people will do. They'll see a job description, they'll apply for that job, and they will update their resume to include keywords from the job description in their resume so that their application has a better chance of getting through that ATS service there. Problem is, you shouldn't have to do all that. It wasn't always this way. It was to prevent HR or the hiring manager from having to go through, hundreds of resumes and applications. That's why that service was put in place. But it has flaws. Like what I just told you, good talent can be overlooked. Now, let's get into this part here, why quiet hiring is on the horizon. Hiring usually falls into one of three categories: backfilling old roles, creating new ones to help the company grow, or addressing an acute, immediate need. Quiet hiring is all about that third category. Even if it doesn't technically involve any new hiring at all, the idea is to prioritize the most crucial business functions at a given time, which could mean temporarily mixing up the roles of current employees. Now, let me tell you about my experience. This has happened to me twice, and it happened to me twice in higher ed. It happens in corporate as well. During the pandemic, we had a number of people quit. And eventually I was one of them. But a number of people quit in my department, at the organization, at the university altogether. What they started to do was, instead of actually interviewing external applicants or even some of these internal applicants at the university for these roles, because you have to post the position, by the way, legally, you have to post it. What they would do is they would take those positions that were now vacant, and they would then give those positions to the people who were left, whether they wanted it or not. And they put it nicely in this article when they said giving them the opportunity to move into that role. No. People were made to take positions that they did not want to take. And I was one of them. All of a sudden, I had to do a supervisor role as part of my job. There was no coaching. There was no training for it. I had never been a supervisor before. And all of a sudden, I had to hire all of these students, train them for a job that I never did and didn't know how to do. And I was their supervisor. And there was no one to help. There was no one to guide along the way. When I asked for help, when I asked for training, I was told, figure it out. Figure it out, deal with it, or move on. So I moved on. But it's not just me. It happens to other people where they just give you this role and all of a sudden you are no longer an assistant director, or you are no longer an administrative assistant. You are now director, or you are now associate dean when you have no experience in that position. You may not be ready for that position, but because you were still left at the company and all your comrades left and the company wants to save money, you now have that job. When employers do this to employees, they are setting them up to fail. You do not put people in these positions with no type of training, no type of guidance, no type of assistance at all, and expect them to succeed. This is a setup. This is a trap. And I've seen it happen multiple times. So I left. Now it goes on to say, because they're trying to put this nicely, and I'm going to be real with you, it's not a nice thing. McCrae refers to that as internal quiet hiring. She cites a recent example, Australian airline Qantas, which asked executives to address a labor shortage last year. The executives are doing it in part because it's the right thing to do to keep the company going, but it's also just a rotation that makes sense for a lot of people. Okay. There's some inherent tension here. If you are temporarily reassigned to a different part of your company, you might interpret that as being told that your regular job isn't particularly important. After all, nobody's getting hired to backfill your old responsibilities. Bosses can help address that by clearly articulating why the specific project or business division is so crucial to the company's success. But what about your success as an employee? This is how a lot of companies fail. It'll help the employee feel valued and less likely to see the move as a sign that they need to start looking for jobs elsewhere. Bullshit. Because that is the exact opposite of what happened at my former employer. When they started to do quiet hiring, all of those people left. Because like I said, you're given this new role, but oftentimes you're not given a pay increase. So you have more responsibilities, you're working longer hours, but monetarily, your life is not improved. So oftentimes this drives employees to quit. Let's go on. Alternatively, companies with few movable employees can hire short-term contractors to help keep things afloat throughout the year. McCrae calls that external quiet hiring. Let's talk about people who are contract or people who are temp or temp to perm. This is just another way of exploiting the workers. Sometimes people will take a contract position because it pays more. But what usually a lot of times will come along with that, and I've been contract as well, is that you don't get certain benefits. So when I was contract, I didn't have health insurance. I had to pay out of pocket when I went to the doctor. You don't get paid vacation oftentimes. So if you take a day off, you're not paid for that. But some people will do it because it pays more money and it's something for right now. That's exploitation. These temp employees, companies that hire these go through these temp services to hire people to temporarily do a job for 3 months, and then they're done with their appointment, and then they bring in another temp to do that for 3 months. That is just another way for the companies to not give those employees benefits. That's also exploitation. And it doesn't make any sense because it increases your turnover. Is it better for you to hire a full-time permanent employee who is going to stay there for at least a year or two? Or is it better for you to keep hiring a new temp employee every 3 months that you have to continue to train? Make it make sense. Temp to perm. Some of these people have been screwed. There have been numbers of people who are in a temp to perm position, and they start off temp and they are told by the hiring manager, after a certain amount of time, you will become a permanent employee of this company. I know multiple people that have been through that. And when it came time for them to go perm, guess what happened? They said your assignment is up, whether they did a good job or not. Or the temp company will say, well, it was never guaranteed that you will go perm, but they don't tell you that. You have to be very careful. If you are using a temp service, you have to be careful because they will tell you that a position is temp to perm, and you can start at the company only to realize the company never said that. The company said it was a temp position. Their goal is to fill those roles because part of their job includes commission. Calling it all out. Calling it all out. This article is ridiculous. How to take advantage of quiet hiring. No one wants to get thrown into an entirely new role if they already like their job. Nobody wants to work for a crumbling business either. And McRae says plenty of companies could crumble without quiet hiring this year. With that in mind, an effective quiet hiring process rests in how it's framed to employees. Listen to this. If you're asking a bunch of people to make this move, you should be able to articulate, what does it mean for them? Well, I'll answer that question. It means you have more work and you still have the same pay. Sorry. If your boss suggests a new set of tasks for you, they'll have more luck motivating you if they can express how much it'll help move your career forward. Whether you're more interested in climbing the corporate ladder or improving your work-life balance. Now, I just told you it increases your workload and you have the same pay. So how is that improving your work-life balance? Do you see how this article is trying to spin this? They're trying to run cover for the companies that are about to start doing this year. And like I told you, quiet hiring is not new. So here they come. Let's protect the employer at all costs. If you're just saying, okay, this is where we need people, great, but that's not enough of a reason for people to want to move. Plus, if your company makes an announcement about needing employees to pivot roles and you're interested, you can use it as an opportunity to discuss your long-term goals. You might even wrangle a promotion for yourself. This is a really good chance for employees to sit down and say to their managers, their HR people, and to the company as a whole, yeah, I'm willing to do this. Let's talk about what it means for my career. What this article is leaving out is that most of the time, in reference to quiet hiring, you don't have a choice. You're thrown into the position and you're told to do the work. So this article is trying to make it seem like you have an option. Most of the time, you're not given an option. So quiet hiring, that is going to increase in 2023. How can you fix it? How can you fix it? This, again, goes back to capitalism. When you have these companies that are exploiting the workers, first of all, the contract shit, I got to be better with my language on here. Contract employees, these temp employees and temp to perm, no company should rely heavily on those services. That is called being cheap. Just hire these people full time. I don't understand this. I don't really get it. And this goes back to having something like Medicare for all. And that's going to lead us into the next story. Because if we had Medicare for all, you wouldn't have to worry about not having health insurance as a contract or temp employee. But it's really a slap in the face. Your contract, your temp, so you don't deserve health care. Why are American people okay with this? Why are people fine with it? Such a freaking mess. Such a freaking mess. Let me go to some of the comments here. Edward says, I work in a SUNY college and they are doing quiet hiring. Our union does nothing about it. See? This is also why some of you who may see those positions and you're external and you apply for those positions and you wonder why no one is calling you back for an interview. Oftentimes, those positions have already been given to someone else that is internal who did not receive a pay increase. Lucy says, this happened at my old job paying minimum wage. My boss didn't want to hire new people after people quit and said it was okay because the work was still getting done. Hardly. I want to touch on what Lucy said about the work still getting done. One of the things you can do, but you could risk losing your job. One of the things you can do is to show them that the work cannot be completed with just one person. Because as long as you show them that you can still get the work done as one person, they will never split that role again. Joanna, no profits. Oh, nonprofits do this too, Sabby. I was not aware of that. I heard some things about nonprofits though. Leah, it happened to me too. 3 times the work, same pay. Robeson, this happened extensively at my non-public special education school job. SCB, Sabby, right on with the silent hiring. I'm a retired nurse and also experienced this. The healthcare industry is putting people in positions they don't belong. That's right. People who are not even qualified, and they're telling them to do these roles. Edward says, Sabby, this is happening in government jobs too, like mine. I work in a SUNY college and I am doing the job of a position that is no longer available because of the low pay. So they gave it to me. You guys see why I say we need a general strike? EMK, you're killing it, Sabby. This is my department, 19 years in IT, 2% raises, average. Watch them buy their stock back. Crap raises and high turnover. IT is one of the ones that's hurt really bad because it's not uncommon for them to bring in contract people to do IT work. Oh boy, we had huge turnover in our IT department, by the way. Blue Moon, it'll take temp to perm now getting desperate. Oh, I'll take temp to perm now getting desperate, but not in construction. Good Cookies, temp services exploit the desperate for work. Just another way to keep people off the unemployment list. That's right. That's right.